All right.
All right.
Welcome to the Divine Feminine. Go for it, sweetheart.
Good morning, everyone. We're so happy to have Debra Graugnard here to speak with us. And thank you, Jackie and Myra, for being here with all of us and organizing this beautiful segment on the block party. I wanted to read something I thought would be appropriate, Debra, for your presence here with us in your spirit. It's from one of my a book I use a lot. It's called Animals Speak by Ted Andrews. I don't know if you know this book. Animals Speak.
Yes, I have it.
Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
He works a lot with animal totems. And I'm going to read two little passages. One is a quote from Chief Dan George, who's pretty well known, certainly in the Northwest Coast. He's a First Nations elder. If you talk to the animals, they will talk with you, and you will know each other. If you do not talk to them, you will not know them. And what you do not know, you will fear. What one fears, one destroys. And then I'd like to read just a little passage from chapter 1. It's called The Spiritual and Magical Roles of Nature. There was a time when humanity recognized itself as part of nature, and nature part of itself. Dreaming and waking were inseparable realities. The natural and the supernatural merged and blended. People used images of nature to express this unity and to instill a transpersonal kind of experience. In the past, shamans, priests, priestesses were the keepers of the sacred knowledge of life. These individuals were tied to the rhythms and forces of nature. They were capable of walking the threads that link the invisible and visible worlds. They helped people remember that all trees are divine and that all animals speak to those who listen. The early priestess magicians would adopt the guise of animals, wearing skins and masks to symbolize a reawakening and endowing of oneself with specific energies. They performed rituals in accordance with the natural rhythms of the seasons to awaken greater fertility and life. To them, every species and every aspect of its environment had the power to remind them of what they could manifest within their own life. It was an aid to bridge the natural world to the supernatural, awakening the realities of both within the environs of their own lives. And I'll end there. It goes on, but I just think that was a really nice way to start because of this reawakening that we're having here on the planet as to our spiritual inheritance as well as our place in the physical world. I'll pass it over to you now, Jackie. Thank you, Debra, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. As always, you always know how to invite the opening, right? The welcoming and invitation to a sacred space that we have here. Thank you, Jamin, as always. Thank you, everyone, for coming together in this time to celebrate and learn and receive the message of the Divine Feminine. Debra, it is such an honor. I mean, we work together on Vegan World 2026 and projects, and we're always working together to actualize and co-create this world that we know is birthing itself. But when I found out more about what Debra does, it was just more evidence to me of I'm on the right path, I'm on the right journey, because my frequency is magnetizing these amazing souls and this amazing work to this space so that we can come together and remember who we are and lock arms and usher in this world. So Debra, thank you so much for agreeing to be with us and accepting our invitation. We would love for you to share your awakening, your journey, your training, and how that gave birth to your book and your private practice. Could you begin there and share with us? Because I know a little bit and I'm so moved by it. So thank you again, Debra, for being with us.
Sure. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Quite an honor. And yeah, so in terms of awakening. There's a story there that is actually one that I don't share very often, but mostly because people don't ask, right? Um, but I think as a child, I was very sensitive, a super sensitive child. I think like, most children are, right? And had at a very young age a near-death experience. And I think, that kind of helped me to remain open at a certain level as a child, and aware. But there came a time in my teenage years where I was so sensitive. I remember my sister telling me, if you don't like toughen up, you're not going to survive in this world. And I remembered in that moment, just like sucking everything in and shoving it down and putting the door on and saying, okay, damn it, I'm going to survive. Right. And I really, I became a survivor, and I just, went for life, but I shut down all of my connection to my emotions and feelings and all those sensitivities, and, that which really connects us as one, and helps us to feel everything and be connected to everything in a sensitive way. So I moved on. I went through college. I went to work in the high tech world, and worked for IBM for 12 years, believe it or not. And I just did what I needed to do, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, actually. But there was, this is where it gets really funny, because I was working for IBM, and it was back when TCP/IP first started being implemented for local area networking. And I went to Dallas from Austin. I was in Austin, Texas. I went to Dallas for this, class that was being held at an education center there. And just, it was kind of a last minute thing to go up there, drove up there. There was a guy in the class who had also come last minute as a replacement for somebody who was supposed to be there, right, and had an emergency. I heard him talking on the phone that, he needed a car because the across the street hotel was across the double-decker 8-lane highway, and he couldn't walk, right? And so I told him, I said, look, I've got my car here. I'm happy. I have to go by there on my way. I was staying at my sister's house. I'm happy to drop you off. Well, it turned out, as he and I were sitting and talking, that out of the blue, like neither one of us, like all of this had been shut down for me. I wasn't seeking or anything, I mean, for years. And out of the blue, we were sitting there talking, and we both had the same experience together. It was like being sucked through a sieve out of our bodies, but we were still in our bodies. And next thing you know, we were two different people in different bodies, but we were the same. So it was like, crossing parallel timelines, that we went through the ethers and into these different bodies. We knew each other. We could see the surroundings around us were different, but at the same time, we knew we were still us, still sitting in the same place at this table. And so this happened, and we knew all these things, and we could have this conversation. Oh, here's what I know about you. Here's what you look like. Here's who this is, right? And this happened, and then we got to another one and to another one. This happened every single day for a week that we were in this training, that we would get together and we would just sit down, and it would just start happening, right? And it was very, so it took me and both of us, right? We had the same experience together, so it was undeniable. It took us out of this world that we were in, and this box that this was all there is, right? And what was really, I think, the most important about that is what happened in those times in between and traveling through the ethers, is that feeling of, okay, I came away from there knowing that love is all there is. All the things I had sweated about and cared about and stressed about were not important at all. They really had so very little meaning, and everything was love. And like, that was what was most important in life, right? And that was all there was. I mean, it really, for a while, it opened up my sight and hearing and all of that, where, I could go in a grocery store and I couldn't tell you know, what I was seeing versus what everybody was seeing, because I could see all the faces and the energies and hear all the voices and everything. And I'd be looking around going, but I felt no fear at all, even though some of the stuff, you know, if I saw it today, I might be fearful of it. But so that completely changed my life from that moment forward. I went home. I tried to explain to the man that I was living with at the time what had happened. And, you know, that didn't compute, right? But it just, I started seeking from that point forward, and, you know, really looking for, okay, how can I learn more about this? How can I live more aligned with this? You know, a lot of veils got lifted in that moment. And so eventually, after bouncing around from place to place, you know, looking, are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you my mother? You know, I got home after this disappointing conversation with someone, and actually in a church, and I found myself on my knees saying, okay, I need some help here, because this life I'm living in is not congruent at all with what I feel inside and what I know inside. And I need somebody to just come and take me by the hand and walk me through how to live that in a way that's aligned with what I now know and what I feel. And it had just opened up all of my ability to feel and the range of emotions and that sensitivity and that connection with all, you know, that so many of us feel when we care so deeply about the planet and the animals and all of this. You know, it's like, okay, I can't live the same way anymore, but I need help how to make the change. And it was at that instant that this this vibration appeared and just started teaching me. And he taught me in you know, energy form, spirit form, whatever you want to call it, for probably a little over a year. And then through divine guidance and orchestration, I met him in person. And when I met him in person, my heart just cracked open and melted all over the floor. And, you know, he was in a room teaching, sitting on the floor. He was a Sufi master from Jerusalem. And he saw me come in at the back of the room and motioned for me to come into the front and sit on the floor in front of him. And we exchanged some beautiful words, and he put his hands on my head and said some prayers. My feet didn't touch the ground for 2 weeks. And I became his student and studied with him for 20 years. And he passed away about 4 years ago. So that was my transition into this life that has now become, thank goodness, the norm, you know, for me. And you know, and it's, I think, so indicative of, you know, this time, like so many of us, I feel I was put on this earth for this time that we're going through right now. Because, yeah, I see thumbs up, because, you know, that we've been hearing for how long, oh, things are speeding up, the vibrations, the frequencies are, you know, are increasing and all of this. And we're talking about living in a world of peace, in a world of nonviolence, in a world of love, in a world of unity and compassion, right? And yes, at the core of our beings, that's what we want. But as this vibration is increasing to, you know, to this point where we are given the opportunity to evolve, we're given the opportunity to ascend, what it's doing is flushing up all of the stuff that can't live in the lower vibrations, that can't live in these higher vibrations, these higher realms. And so, you know, what are we seeing? I mean, COVID-19 was a gift in that sense. And I'm sorry for all the people who really suffer from it, but it was a gift in that it brought so many things to light. Number one, our relationship with animals, and the the food system is central to an entire system that has been one that is that thrives in the lower realms, in that lower vibrations, right? And of greed, and of the socioeconomic injustice and racial injustice, and, you know, and all of the things that are really being flushed up and exposed during this first half of 2020. So, you know, I'd say it's all just signs that this world that we are wanting to see is coming into being. And we have the opportunity to evolve consciously and proactively with it, or to resist and fight it and be in pain.
Deborah, can you share with us where along your journey, where along your awakening, or how I really like to refer to it as a remembering, because it's really truly just remembering who we are at our core. I mean, recognizing this call that we're responding to, our hearts are being led and drawn. And like you said, that resistance to that call, to hold on to what we know intellectually, where we're comfortable, and being courageous enough to step into that calling and say yes to our mother, say yes to the universe. When would you say that your relationship with food and the animals and that disconnect was truly enlightened for you? Where in your journey?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So when I was in college, just about to graduate from college, I was held at gunpoint by an escaped convict who was robbing a bank where I was working. And that was, one of those, another life-changing moment along the way. This was prior to the spiritual awakening, you know. But what the beauty of this experience was that initially I was grateful that he got away and I wasn't harmed. And a week later, he robbed a credit union and he killed a police officer. He took hostages. He got killed. So, same guy. So I was feeling very grateful and fortunate that I had survived and not been hurt. However, it did shake me up to a point, whereas about a month later, I started getting back spasms, really intense, painful, debilitating back spasms, right in the place where the gun had been. And I started having internal bleeding. I started getting really sick. And eventually I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And I had already had fibrocystic disease and hypoglycemia as a part of my, lifestyle choices. And just was like in the mindset of, well, this is just something you live with, you get it, you live with it, you just deal, right? And not awake to the food body connection at all, and not spirit connection either. But with this, I went to doctors and they just said, well, you get it, you live with it, we'll give you steroids, you take these for the rest of your life. When it gets to the point where it's so bad you can't live with it anymore, we'll take your colon out, you'll be fine. Right? Just don't ever eat any high fiber foods, no raw fruits or vegetables. Your vegetables have to be very cooked. Potatoes, white potatoes, and no wheat bread, just white bread. And they're still telling people the same thing today. They still are. And there was something, even though I didn't really know much about food and health at that time, there was a light bulb. First I started down that path, and then just the light bulb came on, and I was like, this isn't right. There was something so not right about it. So I started searching for that, and I found the Fit for Life books. I found the natural hygiene, and that became what I embraced, and I healed everything in a very short period of time with juicing, fasting, cleansing. And then I went, because that does release so much of the brain fog and the density, and it does start to lift the veils again. That was the beginning of it. And and I think that was probably what opened me up to be able to receive the spiritual experience and then go seeking from that point forward. But I became, at that point, I became vegetarian, or actually I kind of went back and forth there for a little while, right? And then when I finally got just strong enough in my character where I could say, okay, I'm not going to worry about what everybody else is going to think, then I became vegetarian and put the stake in the ground. And I don't remember when it was that I became vegan, but it's been some time now. And it was an unfolding in the, having had that experience. And I guess there was initially that awakening, that seeing what was happening in the CAFOs, in the industries, in the advertising, and learning about like how the advertising and the whole food group thing and the whole nutrition component that's taught in schools began as an advertising campaign for the meat and dairy industry. And the schools didn't have anything to teach. So they took that. And it's just like this whole deception for profit that's making people sick, that's harming the animals, that's killing the planet, that just all kind of came together. And I just said, hell to the no. I don't want to give any of my energy or money or time or anything to that system. So I just began to unplug. And I think a lot of us know that, you know, when we live in this world, the unplugging is a process. And it takes time once we start waking up.
Thank you for sharing that, Deborah, because I think I was having a conversation the other day with someone who is very resistant to the vegan message because, again, it's always that idea of you're trying to tell me how to eat, right? It's always that. And I'd like to invite you to express to us really, and I understand everything you just said because that's really what we talk about. But when you talked about that brain fog of inviting the foods in, could you help us understand in your experience what truly that spiritual connection to the different foods, what was happening in your body? What were you feeling spiritually going on within you?
Yeah, spiritually, I love that question, because spiritually, I was feeling like, because what had changed so much in my heart was that everything was love. I didn't want to honor anything that wasn't just bringing me closer to love. And food is, and I can get into, you know, the spiritual teachings that I learned from my teacher about this as well. But food is, I mean, it is from the earth. And source gives us sustenance that are perfectly designed to nourish and feed our bodies. And if we are really careful and mindful and thoughtful and heartful and conscious of the foods that we put into our bodies do stay vibrationally aligned and open to that connection with all that is. I did a summit, a series of interviews a while back that was called the Food Body Spirit Connection back in 2014. And I remember interviewing Gabriel Cousins as a part of that summit. And one of the questions that came up was, well, can you fast your way to God? You know, like if you haven't been awakened and you know, can you like become enlightened just through food? I mean, his answer is no, not really, because it's a divine orchestration kind of thing. But I do believe that everything affects everything else. And if we're like putting things into our system that are releasing hormones and keeping us in this state of like lethargy and depression and brain fog and all that, it's a lot harder to just be in a state of love and gratitude, period, as a human being. And we know that being in a state of love and gratitude and really feeling good in your body just helps to lift our vibration and helps us to be more, feel like we can contribute more to the world rather than being in that state of, oh, I feel horrible and I need, just like, oh, let your body come up and open, increase your breath, increase your blood flow, and, clean out the toxins from your system. You're just going to feel more vibrant and healthy and like you want to give. And you want to be a contributing member. You want to like lift the vibration. You want to be positive, right? And so that in and of itself is a change, I mean, that's an opening to open you up to more, kind of like paves the pathway. And I said I could share some of the teachings as well. In the Sufi teachings, it's, everything that was created. Oh, there's so much to share there that relates to food and to divine feminine, honestly. So everything that was created comes in first in vibration form, right? So the collective of humanity, the name of Adam actually does not translate to, the first man. It translates to earthling. So when the earthling was created in vibrational form, everything was created in energy form before it actually manifested and plays out and evolves through this physical material realm. And in our whole time and space thing, that's another illusion, right? So on the which came first kind of thing. But everything comes into vibration form, and the collective of humanity in this vibration form, it's in the teachings, and take what you will from this. It is said that, well, so God offered to everything in creation before coming into physicality, into this realm, offered to everything in creation to manifest with free will, with a trust, right? And everything in creation, the water, the mountains, the trees, the plants, the air, the wind, the birds, the animals, everything in creation said no, that they would only want to manifest with a will aligned with source, because they couldn't have anything better than that, right? How could you have a life better than that? And so that is nature. That's what we see. That's what we see when we look outside. Only the human beings accepted this trust challenge and said, yes, we'll give it a shot. We'll give that free will thing a shot. We'll try it out. But in order to exercise free will, we have to perceive ourselves as separate from divine will, right? And that's our heroine's journey that we go on when we come to planet Earth, right? So we have that opportunity to perceive ourselves as separate from nature, separate from source, separate from all that is, and separate from ourselves, right? That's the forgetting part of the remembering journey, right? Is the forgetting ourselves. And so we do that as human beings. And it's said that, so God gave the human being 3 things to make us, or in order for us to really sink into the lower realms and disconnect, or perceive ourselves as disconnected from source. And the 3 things are, first off, the desire to, or the need to eat and to defecate. That puts us dependent on the earth and connected with our bodies in a material, physical, dense form, right? We need to eat and we need to defecate. And that was like the first thing that God put to turn us away from just being in bliss. And then the second thing was the desire to make love and procreate, which puts us into relationship with each other and relationship with our children and with our parents and all of the struggles that we go through there, right? That turns us away from just being in bliss to all the stuff we have to deal with, and the joys of it, right? All of this has the joys and the challenges with it, right? And the third thing was the desire to individuate and it's called to be king. It's translated to be king, but the desire to individuate and to conquer and to succeed. And, and it's also on the higher realm, that purpose and passion that we have, that we come here to fulfill, right? And so all of these have like their higher expressions and their lower expressions. And my teacher used to talk about the last thing to go that we really struggle with is our struggle with food. It'll be the last thing to go before we finally evolve, right? And here we are. And it is a huge challenge on not just individually, like every individual has their challenges with food and what to eat and how it affects their body and everything else, but collectively. And if you look at everything that we experience individually is mirrored on the collective, even the hero's journey. And I think this is the part that really gets into divine feminine is, what is the feminine? but the state of being, right? The feminine is that state of presence, the state of the essence of being. The masculine is the state of doing. It's the moving out and separating. So each of us individually, we have that happening just within ourselves, like many times a day. That's why meditation is so beneficial, is we can come back to that essence of being, and that is a place where we can reconnect with source and really like remember what it is that we're, who we are, why we're here, what it is that we're here to serve. And then hopefully, if we do that enough, our going out and doing will be in service to the being, right? But as a collective, we have been in a patriarchy for a long time, in this state of the forgetting and of the conquering and of the, of the separation and the disconnection. And, I think what we're seeing is this waking up of the collective and remembering, hopefully getting to the tipping point of the scale so we can really make our way back to this collective state of being. And that's why the divine feminine is so important right now, because as women, if we can really learn to hold that space, and even the men, because everybody's got inner feminine and inner masculine, but the women actually do have something specific, vibrationally speaking, that's also a part of the sacred feminine teachings that the men don't have, and that's the womb. And I can say more about that in a minute, but just the collective, we need to be holding that space of being, the essence of being, so that our humanity has a place to come home to reconnect with the essence of being that is the connection with the all that is. It's kind of like, it's really important for the more of us that can be in that space and hold that, then that's going to also help the evolution of our collective. Melissa, were you wanting to say something? Yeah.
Thank you, Deborah. That's so beautiful. I've never actually heard that creation and will explained quite in those terms, which is really interesting. And because I've done a lot of reading of Rudolf Steiner's work, and kind of seeped in anthroposophy and, of course, First Nations spiritual wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
What I was thinking about when I was listening to you was that this experience that we have where we're given free will. So I understood it as it's like a gift we were given, that we can, that we get to choose how we have this experience and how we respond and what our attitudes are going to be in response to any given situation. It's almost like this experiment that the gods gave us, but I've also heard that this experiment is a way for creation to feel itself out in the world through our consciousness, and that will allows for that. But that at this time, we are being called to use our will in the right way now,
Mm-hmm.
not in these destructive ways. So I just wanted to mention that. And
Totally agree.
Also really think that's fascinating, this whole connection with the food, that's the last struggle we'll have, because I hadn't really thought about it like that either. And I find that so really fascinating, that our evolution of our consciousness is coming through our tummies. It's like the free will to choose how we live on the planet, how we take in knowledge, take in information, take in sustenance, is all part of this evolution of our consciousness. So thank you. That was really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, it's like, if you don't mind, I'm going to open my door for my noisy cat. Yeah, so I don't want to hog the whole space. If anybody has anything they want to.
No, please, Deborah, hog the space. Like, I can hear you talk endlessly, please. I would really love to learn more about your perspective about the womb and about how the feminine in the vibration of the form. And also, and maybe later you can help us understand how you perceive in your training and education the difference between free will and destiny.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this is really one of my favorite things to talk about is, and to, I lead a lot of groups and really helping women to understand the power that is contained within the womb, and the sacredness and the awe of what we hold inside of our bodies. And I'll begin again with just like the emanation from unity to multiplicity. In the beginning there is nothing, and then there is one, right? And from the one comes many. And so in the Sufi teachings, which are my teacher, his language is Arabic, which is a sacred language. And one of the things about sacred language is it's made up of sound codes, and the vibration of the frequency that is produced when you speak a sound, make a sound, it carries the same vibration, the same frequency of the energy of the thing that it names. So everything was first put into energy form, and so every energy has a sound and a sound code, right? And the first thing that came from the unity, from the source, is the Rahman, which is divine compassion. And it is the existence of compassion. It's the ocean of compassion, right? It's not, it's beyond the compassion for any individual thing, or that it is just the existence, the ocean of divine compassion. And it is the ocean that we subsist in, right? That everything in creation is contained within this ocean. The name for Rahman comes from the same root as the name for womb. And that Rahman being the first emanation from source, everything else flows through that and is contained within that, within this womb. So compassion is the womb, and it is the ocean in which everything is contained, and everything comes into being and is through the womb of compassion, and is contained in the ocean of compassion. It's also called the bridge between the worlds. The womb of the woman, Arham. Also the name of divine compassion. Also the ocean that is the bridge between the worlds. No life comes to the earth that doesn't come through a womb. And the feminine being that container, that state of being. We used to ask my teacher all the time, why is it that all the prophets are the men and the saints, everything are the men? And he would say, what contains the men? And and it took me a long time to really, really get it on a deep level of what that container is. And there's that Native American proverb, I believe it's a Cherokee proverb, that says that, the highest expression of the woman is to lead a man to his soul so as to reunite him with his source. The highest expression of the man is to protect the woman so she is free to walk the earth unharmed. And if we look at this from just, you can look at it in relationship, you can look at it on the collective scale, you can look at it just individually in your own inner feminine and inner masculine. That inside of you, which is that essence, that state of being, that, and your connection with the all that is. Women do carry that that energy center and that womb space that is a portal that, on the energetic realms, meditation, whatever, if you have that kind of practice, that you can travel to and really just be in that essence and that connection in that place of like the expansiveness of the universe. And it's an incredible, exquisite place. Your heart can get you to beautiful places too, traveling through that portal to that expansive space of the universe. That connection, it's like, I kind of lost my train of thought there. It is a temple, right? It really is to be held as sacred and to be honored, to be respected, and to be cared for and protected. So in and of ourselves, right, whether we are talking male-female relationship or any kind of relationship, or just individually, in and of ourselves, we hold that part of ourselves as sacred, and we all have the ability to tap into that feminine state of being, that essence. And we also have our masculine energy that can hold it as sacred and protect it when we move out into the world and we're doing our thing, right? And so for each of us to really understand that, to be able to tap into it and experience it, and then learn how to hold it as sacred when we walk in the world, is just a beautiful, incredible thing that we've really been missing, right? Because, I mean, that's one of the things that's also been flushing up over the last few years with the eruption of the Me Too movement and all of that. We're not going to sit in silence and in shame anymore. And we're not going to, to be seduced by advertising and by, all of the things that seduce us into the lower realms and keep us from really knowing and honoring the truth of who we are. Right? We're putting a no to that. And I think that we still have some work to do to really recognize what it is that we have the opportunity to return to really hold ourselves as sacred beings in the world, and to really honor and respect what that is in and of ourselves, and hold ourselves in that self-respect, and protect that when we move in the world. It's a huge game changer for women when we learn that, right? Like when we learn that, it's a game changer. Yeah. And
Debra, I'd like to contribute to what you just said. My first true awakening that I remember feeling that kind of that shifting in dimensions like you described, where I was physically the matter, but the essence that was expressing itself through the matter was a completely different person. And it was when I became a mother. And when my son passed away, and the pain is when I first experienced the largest shift, where I felt that where the parallels where I could go was that first joint where it was destiny and free will. And it was suffer or receive the pain, and receive what it was here to show me and teach me. Especially for women that I feel in the feminine, the divine feminine and feminine form, there's something about how we can experience pain, how we can articulate pain. Could you help us understand what you see the difference between suffering and pain?
Yeah. Thank you. One of the things we learn pretty early on in this human world, in our state of separation or perceived separation, is how to shut down our emotions right? And how to try to control ourselves and contain ourselves and everything else, right? Emotions are meant to be in motion, right? Like the waves of the ocean, and they're meant to flow in and out. And when we allow our emotions to flow and allow ourselves to feel, it really has, it gives us so much information about who we are, and it really does return us to our connection with the higher realms, the higher knowing. And when we try to shut them down, we, it's like it cuts us off from ourselves, and that's part of, that's part of what separates us from ourselves. So to some extent, it is like, a destiny that we are supposed to choose, at times, that in various phases of our lives, to shut ourselves down and disconnect from ourselves and have all these experiences we're supposed to have that eventually will lead us back. Can I share a story with you about this little girl that I worked with? It's been several years ago. I worked with this girl. At the time, she was 6.5 years old. And she was incredibly beautiful, as all children are. She remembered what it was like to be in the womb. She hadn't forgotten. And she was saying to her mom, she says, well, I really, because, well, I'm good, but okay. She said, I really liked it when I was in the womb. Because when you're in the womb, when you get scared, you can go back. And her mom says, what? You can go back? What do you mean? And she says, well, when you get scared, you can go back and ask questions and they help you. And she says, really? She says, well, you got scared? Well, what happened? And she says, well, Mom, you get to see everything. It's like you're in that state where you can see everything. And she's like, really? And she said, yeah. She says, and they show you a movie of your whole life before you come here. And her mom says, really? And the movie's scary? Well, if you don't like it, can you change it? She says, no, Mom, it's not like that, because you have to come here. She says, God has it all worked out. And you have to come here because it's like going to school. And you have lessons. And you have to go and have your lessons. And she says, really? And she says, well, do you remember the movie? Okay, and get this, because this is the most priceless thing out of the mouth of a 6.5-year-old. She says, no, Mom, that would be like going on a treasure hunt when you already know the treasure. Like, does that blow you away or what? If you ever needed affirmation about all of this woo-woo stuff, there it is, right? That would be like going on a treasure hunt when you already know the treasure. I know, right? And I cherish that experience and that story, because yeah, we have destiny, and yeah, we have free will, but and yeah, we have some choices. And I think that that the collective on some level is unfolding, and we get to participate and play in that. And there's some predestined roles, and there's some things that are going to happen no matter what, and like the evolution of our consciousness right now on the mass scale, and the evolution of our planet, we can go kicking or screaming and screaming, or we can do the work to evolve with it and be a part of the change, and yeah, and we all have choice. And yet what we learn from those quote unquote bad choices or mistakes are part of, it's not, for the most part, not wasted, because we do get to learn, and we also seed what's happening in in creation on the larger scale of the collective as well. Yeah.
I think we must have been sisters somewhere along the road, because
All of us.
I just totally get what you're saying so deeply. And I was just reading this Mayan story about, well, I mean, there are lots of course creation stories that talk about how before we're born, there are three angels that we meet, compassion, necessity, and choice. We have this discussion about, you know, say, what would you like to come to earth to be, to do, you know, and I'm not just talking about physical, like buy a car, be a cab driver, but, you know, in a deeper spiritual way. Then after we have this discussion and choose these roles and things we're going to learn and come here to do, then we get to choose our parents and our situation that we're going to be born into. So the environment and our contracts, which Carolyn Mace calls sacred contracts, of course, which you're talking about, which when a contract comes up, you can't not meet that contract. You know, you can delay it a bit, but once it's there, you got to fulfill it, which I find fascinating. And I've certainly lived that experience in my life over and over again. Yeah. And when I've resisted, the universe just said, and it literally just pulled the carpet out from under my feet. You're like, okay, I secede. But when you're telling the story of this little girl, so wise, because I've read and in many stories that we are all asked to go and drink from the river of forgetfulness, so that after we've seen the movie, signed the contracts, you know, made the arrangement, got the train ticket, know when we're arriving, we then have to forget. And it's funny because I just picked up this book, Michael Mead's Fate and Destiny. And it's a story, a Mayan story about the midwives who actually, you talked about the womb and the vagina as like, I see it like a time tunnel, you know, that connects us to the physical world and the spiritual world. And the children travel down the time tunnel into this realm. And
I believe the forgetting starts when that umbilical cord is cut. It's a gradual thing, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Right. And it's a story about a baby called Podder who's born, and he's born with gifts, because we're all born with gifts, of course. But the midwife removes the gifts and she gives them to a couple who live out in the countryside. But when this young child grows up and comes of age, he goes out on the quest, of course, in search for who he truly is and what his purpose is here and what his gifts are. And that desire to search for that brings him to the village where that couple live, who are holding his gifts. And I just wanted to read this because it's so beautiful. Sorry, did I lose it? Yeah, here we go. Oops, sorry. After wandering about, Podder came upon some people keeping vigils and doing ceremonies in the hills. They welcomed him warmly and asked why he walked the hills alone. He explained that he was searching for answers and that he desired to know if he had something to give to the world and if the world had something to give to him. The people answered that both things were true and that each person was intended to be part of a vital exchange that sustained the world. So that's so much what you're talking about, you know, that it's all connected, right?
Yeah.
And through so many dimensions.
Yeah. Beautiful. And we all do, you know, and that's that higher vibration part of the, you know, what's my purpose question that we all, you know, like, and we can sense too, right? Especially when we start remembering, we can sense that, that feeling inside, that connection inside, because all that whole knowing of the connection and everything is still there, even though we forgot. And when we start remembering it, it carries us back home, guides us back home, right? We're all like looking, seeking on some level. Yeah, beautiful.
My work, Debra, is really focused on the children. And listening to you speak, it's helping me understand so much the process that I went through, and that remembering that was to me more of an ancestral remembering, accessing that knowledge and that guidance that ego could not suppress. That this world, I felt I was born with a resilience that a certain amount of remembering that no matter how much the world tried to prescribe to me who I was to be, that the light within me could not be diminished. And there's a certain amount of pain that comes with that. To have to navigate life with that awareness that we see the world not quite like everyone else. And there's a loneliness. There's more of a separation because we have to encapsulate ourselves to protect that and say, I will not give that over. I will not surrender. And so I feel what you were saying about that suppression, making me feel that I was wrong in some way, making me feel that I was mistaken in some way. And that caused such a dissonance for so long. In your eyes, what is our role as the divine feminine as we pertain to the children of the world, especially in this transitioning and this evolution and this transformation that's happening exponentially quickly? How do you see the divine feminine and the children today?
Thank you. What is it that Khalil Gibran says? That the children are not your children. They are God's expression of longing for himself. And so I totally botched that, I'm sure, but it's something along those lines.
It's life longing for itself. Your children are not your children. It is life's longing for itself.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, on the one hand, I think, well, I chose not to have children. And, of course, there was quite a journey in that as well. But so there's part of me that says, oh, am I qualified to answer that question? But at the same time, I think that, as we're all moms to some extent, and that with the children, I think the greatest gift that we can give to any other being is to continue to witness the light in them and the spark in them and the gifts in them. That I know when you give birth, and you talked about that, you're flooded with that oxytocin and you're in that love space and you're in that, bridge between the worlds, right, with this child, and you can see the beauty and the light and the expression of source in this child, and you know that this child is coming here to be a unique expression. Then what can you do but and I know it's easier said than done. The greatest gift that we can give to any being is to continue to witness that light no matter what, and to help them to feel valued, and that they have a place, and that they have a purpose, and that they have gifts, and that they're meant to be here, and that they're not a mistake. How many of us as children have or come out of childhood feeling like, I don't deserve to take up space here. I was a mistake. And, there's just, if there is a God, then you really screwed up on this one, because I'm better off hiding under a rock, and, how many of us feel that. And I mean, I can relate it to, I'm living with my dad now. After his wife died, I moved in with him, and he was 95 years old. He's 97 now, and I just feel like the greatest gift that I can give him is to help him find some sense of purpose and something, sense of satisfaction that he's contributed in a positive way to his life, somebody's life in every day. And that I can tell you really keeps him going. Like if he doesn't have that on a given day, he starts to kind of sink. And I think the same is true for our children. If we can help them to find in every day just one thing that they have brought that's positive and a contribution and a light and a beauty, that it helps to just hold the space for them to evolve in whatever way they're supposed to evolve, because they have their own destiny and they have their own path and they have free will, dang it. And so, though I didn't have my own, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and now great nieces and nephews that I get to hang out with that are, in those developmental ages and stages, and you can't control them. Dang it.
Debra, I feel, oh my God, I feel your heart and your light, and you're just radiant. And I'm totally convinced that these are soul contracts that we are all coming together to fulfill. And our purpose is so much clearer. My own individual purpose felt so small compared to the connectedness and our collective purpose now. Mm-hmm. I wake up knowing every day that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be and doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and know exactly who I'm supposed to know. And how liberating is that?
Yeah.
How feeling is that? To know, to look in the mirror and recognize myself and to know myself and feel that efficacy for the first time. And I truly believe that all children of the world are my children. I see every child as my child. And that is a beautiful feeling. But at the same time, there is that heaviness because you do feel the suffering. Yes. You do feel that collective trauma that's going on. You do hear the cries of the children and the animals. Mm-hmm. How would you express to those of us that are very open, connected, empathic, that haven't quite journeyed as much as some of us have, or some even more, that are so feeling and connected to the despair, the trauma, the anxiety of what's going on? How do you express to them what you see is actually happening? Because we do have our other segment on Wednesdays, Healing in the Aquarian Age with Dr. Oscar Molina. And he said recently that we are becoming more angelic. That is the transformation that is happening right now. We are becoming our angelic selves. We are becoming our higher selves. And Eckhart Tolle talks about how our purpose is to transmit, to invite consciousness on this plane, on this level, on this dimension. How do you express to those that are steeped in despair and fear and anxiety our message?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Silas talks about that, when he talks to people about animals, and that question of, you wouldn't deliberately hurt another human being, would you? It's like it touches into that place inside of us where we all want to live in a world of love and compassion and acceptance, right? One of the things I know that I have to tell myself sometime is when I see people who appear to be not awake and, fueling the system of the lower realms of oppression and of horror and trauma and all of those things that are, a part of what permeates the consciousness. It just is like a drumbeat of resonance of trauma and horror that we can all feel that. And there are some people who are a part of that system that are perpetuating that, right? That have designed that are a part of keeping that going. It's their role right now. And I can honestly drop to my knees in a heartbeat and thank God and every other power or every fiber of my being, I hope, can be in gratitude that I'm not one of those. I think that we've all had our roles that we've been chosen for to play out in this grand orchestration together. And some people have to play that role. I'm glad I didn't get that part in the play. And meanwhile, if we can keep the whole, Melissa, you were talking about this as, I don't remember what you called it, but I think of this as being like the greatest reality show there is, right? Because not only are we, excuse me, not only are we dropped on a desert island, but we have all this knowledge, and then we have to drink from the river of forgetfulness, and we don't even know what we really are, right? And we are an integration of, because our bodies are earth elements, and they know, like all of our earth elements know what our body needs to survive, and we're here to survive in these bodies, and the bodies want to live. And the body has no life without spirit. Spirit leaves, the body dies and starts to decay and return to the earth, right? So we are an integration of earth and spirit, and the wisdom of earth and all of the nutrients and elements of earth, and the wisdom of spirit coming together to like play this out. And so it's like we all have all of this. And I think, it's back to that question between destiny and free will. I'm grateful that I didn't get that role. And I also can remember times in my life when I was in the state of forgetfulness where I did some things that hurt people, and it's like, I really did. Not on a mass scale. Well, who knows what the ripple effect is? We don't really know what the full ripple effect of our actions. But I did things that hurt people back then, so I can kind of like see that as a way to have some understanding, try to have some compassion, look at the bigger picture of like what's the whole play about, who are the characters, what are we playing out, where are we going, what's the storyline here, and hold on to that storyline that, whether it turns out to, like, we get somewhere down the road and find out it's all not true or not, but it's to hold on to what I feel in my experience that I've had in my time of forgetting and the time of remembering, that there's it's a bigger orchestration and a bigger movie that's going on here, and we're just like little dots on the TV screen, that change colors from time to time. But you need those dots, because you know how annoying it is when you look at a TV screen and it's got a little dot out, and you're like, dang it, I'm gonna get a whole new TV because it's got one little dot out, right? So our dots need to be there and do their colors, and and go on and off and do their thing, and those other dots need to be there when it changes scene also, when it's like scene 1, scene 2, yeah, I'm glad I got this role. And the more that we can do our part to consciously, proactively evolve, the more we're going to help to steer the outcome of the movie. Yeah.
Again, you're reminding me of this great book of Omar Khayyam, The Rubaiyat. Do you know this?
No, I don't know that one.
Find the one bit where he says, the universe plays with us like chess pieces, willy-nilly. But here's a little one paragraph where he says, we are the puppets, and the firmament is the puppet master, in actual fact, and not as a metaphor. For a time we acted on this stage, we went back one by one into the box of oblivion.
Nice. Nice. Jackie, I'm trying to remember what your last question was. Did I answer it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it brought up another idea, because when you talked about the humility of compassion for self, and I think that was really my greatest journey, was pointing the finger at myself before I continue to point outward and understanding that everything in my environment was a mirror and a reflection of my inner landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much easier to want to point out and say, you hurt me, and you hurt me. But to have the integrity and the humility to first forgive oneself for our forgetting, for our unconsciousness, to be accountable for the ripples that we have caused and effect. And if we can own that, and if we can heal our own wounds for understanding that because I did not know, I made choices that may have impacted people in a painful way, then how do you not turn around and have that compassion for others? How do you not see others the way you see yourself? How do you, especially to our community, the vegan community, and that we see so much pain, especially with what's going on with Mother Earth, what's going on with the animals, what's going on with racism. How do we express that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but it is one of our greatest, we can wield that superpower of love, of compassion, of forgiveness, and how that actually fortifies us and strengthens us, ushering in this new world.
Yeah. Good question. And as you were speaking just a minute ago, if I can add one more piece to that, or to what I said earlier that touches on that about the self-compassion, because sometimes things do get really intense. And even though we know, and, we don't want to sit in judgment, and we don't want to contribute to the harshness and the hard vibes, the low vibes. We don't want to be a part of that, right? It gets freaking intense sometimes. And it's hard not to, we want to let our emotions flow. We want to let them continue to move through us. We want to let the emotions, to really help us to know, because our emotions really they tell us, we have our knowing selves and our connected selves and our plugged in self, and then we have what's going on around us. The emotions are just telling us how our knowing self is relating to what's going on around us. And so often we stop with the I can't feel, shove it down, point the finger out there, but we can let our emotions actually take us in and say, okay, what is that feeling? If I let myself feel this, what is it telling me about what I truly need as a human being? What my values are, what I value, and what I know to be true, and the truth of who I am. And that really, takes us back to that connection with our original knowing and where we originally came from. It's like that is a doorway and a pathway back to really know the truth of who we are. And when we stop and shut the door on it and say, we lose that opportunity to know ourselves and to really connect with ourselves. But there are those times too when, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day about, dealing with someone with addiction, where when to say yes, when to say no to the things that they're asking for, right? And it's back to, well, we want to serve the greater good. When we're serving the greater good, sometimes the best thing that we can say is no to what's hurting the greater good. So it's like, and it calls things forth from within ourselves that challenge us, and we're here to be challenged. That's part of the whole deal. But it's a dance that we learn, right, to walk in balance with that, when to say no for the sake of the greater good. And I think it's to condemn the actions and to be careful not to hurt the people. Because if we can condemn the actions and still hold the heart of the people, we create a space for their hearts to shift and to open, and for them to walk through and change. Whereas if we condemn the person, we kind of send them back into that shell and that place that we have all known at some point in our lives, where we just felt damaged and bad and wrong. And then we have to it disconnects us further from our truth of love and compassion. And we have to use our human ego power to try to compensate from the disconnect with ourselves, you know? So it's like, it's that cycle, you know, if we push somebody further away from their truth, we put them into that compensation defense mode. And rather than helping, saying these actions are bad, and I hold your heart as a heart of love and compassion and a, you know, an expression of the divine, like, let me help you to also, or let me reflect for you that these harmful actions are not in alignment with who you are. You know, and maybe that would have some help, kind of like the work that, you know, we're seeing with farmers who are starting to say, I don't want to kill my livestock. I can't do this. And maybe there's another way, and I can change what I'm doing here to become a sanctuary, to become a mushroom farm, to become, you know, something where I can do better than this.
Beautiful, Deborah. Myra has her hand up, so if that's good with you, Jackie, call on Myra. Thank you.
Hi, Debra.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to meet you. My camera is off because once again I'm having connection issues with the internet. I always, most of the time, I've seen you as a moderator in between Dr. Sailesh Rao's meetings or summits. And now that I am listening to you and that I am learning your divine feminine, it's just amazing. I'm here with my jaw dropped, just listening to your words, and I'm in love. I'm in love with everything that you're saying. And I do believe that it is very important for us as humanity, or individually, every human, to have an amazing spiritual teacher, to maintain connected to we know who we are, but as a guide, with no doubt, because that also helps us to maintain out of our egos. And what you're telling me about your teacher, from what I understand, because sometimes the phone cuts off, but I believe you said your teacher is from Jerusalem, and that he spoke Arabic, and that Arabic, it's a very sacred language. And to be honest with you, I get so connected to people from the Middle East, whether they are from India, whether they are from any part of, oh my God, Jerusalem, or I just get connected with those type of cultures where even they still pronounce the Hebrew language. I personally love to pronounce Hebrew. I am trying to learn Arabic. I love to pronounce mantras, Sanskrit language. If I was able to find out how to pronounce because one of the most ancient languages, which I believe is in Chinese, if I'm not mistaken, I would find a way to learn how to pronounce it, because there is definitely a lot of wisdom in our most, I guess, our most oldest ancestors, which they were connected to the source in a more natural way, which within years we have gotten very disconnected in many ways. And thank you for being here, and listening to you is just almost like if I'm in a meditation mode. It's beautiful, your experience. Yes,
Thank you for being here.
Oh, no. Thank you. It's an honor. And as a matter of fact, I would like to invite you more to be here of the part of the Divine Feminine, because this is so natural in you. You're just amazing. I would like to ask you, from your knowledge, from all this wisdom that you carry since you were a little girl, what do you think would make like a quantum difference within humanity as of right now to unite us all? Because I find it really hard. Really hard. I speak with many people in different ways and different levels, and I just know that many people don't get that everything, we are who we eat, we are who we speak. And if we could just learn how to speak the love language, and if we could learn also how to eat foods of light, it could just make a big difference. As of now, I would like to listen from your words. What do you think? Like, what would be maybe the best expression to put out there to help friends, family to unite?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I think on one level, the universe is doing it for us right now. You know, I think that, and it's leaving a lot of people, though, like this shift in vibration. I mean, you know, like a lot of people don't look out there and say, oh, look what's happening in the protests, and say, oh, that means we're shifting to a higher vibration now. Oh, yay, right? A lot of people aren't looking at it that way. Oh, look at all the people dying from COVID-19. Oh, that means our planet is shifting to a higher vibration now. You know, so I think that, oh, so many answers want to come through. We can help. You know, we can do our work by continuing to share the message, but also to hold the space. And Myra, you bring up the sound, right, and the mantras and the language. At everything is energy. Everything carries vibration, and sound is one of those things that can shift vibration. You know, and so like doing those mantras, I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, one of the practices that I learned from my teacher, that one of the main practices is saying the mantras like into the bloodstream. So it really does, I mean, your blood is 92% water, right? And it carries nourishment to all of your cells. All of your cells carry consciousness. And consciousness, you know, it's like, what better way to clean and clear the consciousness from your cells, right, on a cellular consciousness level, than to bring that sound resonant of the sacred sounds, the high vibrations, into your bloodstream, and like just let it flow through your body, and just invite every cell of your body to just open and receive, and allow its consciousness to be cleansed, and just let go of what that's going to look like or feel like, and let yourself just be evolved through that. You know, it's a beautiful thing that we can do for ourselves. And because we, at our core, our knowing is a vibration, right? We know the vibration. It's like the knowing is contained inside of us at our core as a vibration. It's like when we tap into that vibration and we feel that energy flowing through us, we know it. And it's like we know, oh, I'm home now. Oh, I didn't even realize I was away from home. Oh, right? And it's like, if we can just help with being that and letting that vibration emanate and continuing to do our work, and we show up in these places and we speak from a place of that, you know, that tapped into that home vibration place, tapped into, and this is where the power of the feminine is particularly important, because we do have that ability that's different from the way that men do it, right? It's just different. But we have that ability to like plug energetically, align ourselves and plug our life force into that power center of that feminine state of being and bring through that essence that is just like it holds the space. And then when we speak the words as we're holding that space, we can help people to like let their defenses down, and their vibrational bodies will just say, like, float right in and say, oh yeah, I want to resonate. I want to come into sync with that vibration, because that's the vibration that my inner self knows is a comfortable home space. So, I think that's like what Jackie asked earlier about how we can speak to people about the wrongs in the world and how we can hold and contain that. It's like the more that we can hold that place of like really being plugged in and holding that essence of being, it emanates, and it does change. And it gets back to that, Jackie, like you also said, everything that you see is a mirror of, what you're here to see, right? And what's a part of your inside part, right? And everything is being mirrored so that you can see. And so it will shift. When you change, the way that the energy and what shows up in the field around you and your perception to it changes, but it changes too. And so it's like, in the world of collective illusion, when we change ourselves, it changes the collective illusion.
Thank you. And Debbie, because we are a vibration, because our bodies are made of more than 70% water, do you believe that if within the Divine Feminine, if we start organizing massive meditations and trying our best to try to cool down the oceans through the vibration and the intention of doing so to help Mother Earth heal more than anything, do you believe that this might be something possible?
I do. Yeah, I do. I believe like, clearing the trauma from the collective energy field and also the water. I mean, water is like, it's a substance that flows through every one of us. And the same water that flows through me at some time may have flowed through you and like everybody, right? Water is water, and it flows through everything in some form. And do you know Dr. Emoto's work? Masaru Emoto?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do. And every morning before I drink any meal, and I would like for everybody here to practice that amazing knowledge, to grab the water and put it on your solar plexus and on your heart chakra, and then try to elevate your vibration to your love and your consciousness. And I do that every morning, and it does makes wonders. It's amazing. There you go. Melissa has it. I did.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I believe that, I mean, what a powerful thing to shift the vibration of the water, and the water that is so much a part of our life force. And, we're 70% water, and my water is your water is your water. And it's a constantly flowing thing. We're constantly taking in more and releasing, and, through on every level. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate you. I really do. And I think that we should really start organizing these meditations and this prayer and these mantras. And I definitely believe that Divine Feminine can definitely make a shift.
Yeah, I do too. Is it okay to share? I actually do a prayer and healing circle every Sunday morning. I never found a church that I liked, that, or, you know, that I, and let me retract those words, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I started, I started it a few years ago, and every Sunday morning I do an online through Instant Teleseminar, prayer and healing circle. And it's, you know, sometimes we use sacred sounds, sometimes we use Ho'oponopono, sometimes we use, you know, just like breath and movement. Sometimes it's, you know, different. It's always a healing meditation though, and sometimes it's focused on the individual, but it's called Community for Conscious Living, and it's dedicated to personal transformation for universal harmony, healing the planet by making inspired changes. And I mean, that's the changes that are inspired from within us, making inspired changes to create a sustainable environment and a peaceful world. And that's the spirit with which we just take kind of whatever's flowing in, you know, happening in the world at the time that needs some, sometimes it's focused on the planet, sometimes it's focused on the collective, sometimes it's focused on the individual, and everything affects everything else. So, of course, welcome to that.
Would you honor us to within here, the people, the girls, the divine feminine that is present here, to do something like this, to do a prayer as of right now, to guide us a little bit into that motion of vibrating with the universe? I would like to know, I don't know, maybe it's too much to ask. I just want to know if we could do that for the few minutes that we have within the divine feminine. We have like 20 minutes, and if we could all get connected and do it here in this platform.
Sure. Yeah. Melissa was waving her hand though, so let's hear from
Yeah,
her
I just
first.
wanted to say one thing. I think that's a beautiful suggestion, Myra. Thank you for asking Debra for that. If she's open to doing that, it'd be great. And I'd love to join you on Sunday. And I don't know, maybe others on the platform would love to join you if that's open. But one thing I learned when I studied healing arts in Belgium is that in French they say l'univers est mental, which means the universe is mind. And so through our thoughts, we influence everything. And so we don't really have to do too much to tap into anything or to transform anything. We have to set our intention. So if I took my bottle of water here and I put my intention on it with my thought, I'm already influencing the molecular structure of this water. And with my intention and my thoughts, I can make this happy water, and I can make it water that's balanced and that's healing for me. And so by just merely setting my intention that this is tap water, right? Doesn't matter. I fill my bottle up and I say, thank you so much for healing my body and for making my body balanced and well. That already has changed the molecular structure of this water, and it will perform in that way. And I just wanted to mention that because sometimes we think we have to do all these very elaborate things to bring change, when actually it's quite simple. So thanks. And just back to Myra's request, Debra, if that was something you would like to do, I would certainly welcome it. Yeah, Jackie.
Okay, Jackie first.
I would actually be honored if you would close the session with that. I would love to transition to our next segment, because it's all about food. And it's really this amazing effort that we've all come together, this platform that's provided by Radish for us to all come together and address what we know to be the core healing, which you have affirmed to us today, is the food. Is that first learning, is that first understanding of our identity and our purpose and our beingness on this planet. So I would be honored, and I'm sure I share the sentiment, if you could close the session with that, I would love that. But before, you mentioned the breath. And if we could, for a few minutes, discuss the breath, because I remember in my training and my teachings, one of the core things that really resonated with me and caused me to look at everything differently was my understanding of the breath. And one of my teachers just said, remember, we kind of live in this snow globe. All the air that's ever been and always will be is contained in this sphere that we live in. And so to understand that the air I breathe flowed through all of the avatars that molecule, that chip of wisdom and knowledge that's encoded in every molecule, I get to breathe that in, and I get the opportunity to learn and incorporate and integrate the air that breathes through Jesus' lungs, through the Buddha's lungs. Just understanding that, and then remembering that my baby breathed and his air is still in this globe and flows through me with every breath. And if we set that intention and knowing to receive that, it's so transformative. And so with every breath, I see a hummingbird, I see feathers, I see the trees moving, and I take that in and I say, thanks for coming home, my love. Thank you. How do you express to others truly the understanding of the breath?
Thank you. That's beautiful. You know, it reminds me of a piece that I wrote one time for a blog that I used to write for, that it was called God Exhaled. And, you know, that breath, like I think of it as the breath that flows through it. I do think of the breath as like the life force energy, like the electricity, like, you know, breath of God, source, you know, whatever your beliefs are. I think you can universe, but of a breath of oneness. That, and I love the way that you say that, just like the water, because I think of that a lot with the water, but I don't think of it as much with the breath, and I hadn't really, you know, put it in the same perspective. But I do think of breath as like the one life force that breathes everything, and we are all one big expansion and contraction. And the way that, you know, if you really like into that deep meditation where you do go to the universal planes, you know, it is, it's like spirit moves through, like I think of it like the jellyfish, you know, with that opening and contracting and the expansion and contraction and everything, right? I mean, from conception to childbirth, you know, that, you know, contractions are painful, but then you have expansion. You can't have the expansion without the contraction, right? And that life that comes in, and the first breath that's taken from the baby, and the crying and everything, is all expansion, contraction. And everything that, like every movement of our bodies is expansion, contraction. Even the voluntary and the involuntary, and the, you know, mobility and the motility, everything is by expansion, contraction. And the motion of the heart, of the emotional heart, which is that information channel, you know, that tells us about how our knowing self is relating to this crazy world, you know, or not, right? You know, that's expansion and contraction that we feel. And it's like, it's, to me, it's all breath, you know, it's all like breath, how breath of source breathes through us to manifest this great orchestration onto this material realm. And it's all, you know, as individuals, and as family units, as communities, as collective, there's all one breath and a pulsation that ripples through the entire ocean of the universe. And, you know, the ocean, yes, the ocean that looks like water, but the broader ocean that is the atmosphere of our universe, all one breath. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love your perspective on it also. And, you know, so for the meditation, I'm trying to think if this is going to eventually flow together, because there's two things that are going on in my head. There's one to, you know, come together and connect through our breath, through our hearts, through our, you know, our pulsation, our expansion, contraction, our movement, to come together as that. Oh, that's how it comes together. Okay, just got it. You know, as we kind of like energetically and consciously encircle the globe and help to bring this this vibration to like, sometimes we do that in the Sunday morning circle as well, as just to kind of surround the globe and to help to bring the vibration to the collective, right? And the other thing that was running through is, there's a thing that I do when I work with people specifically on the food, body, spirit connection programs and things, is that I offer a prayer that we can all do with our food. That is a prayer of gratitude. Do you mind if I share that first, because it's relevant? Okay. It's a prayer of, like, and I love this because I don't have to say the word vegan or vegetarian or anything to people when we do this practice, but I'll invite people sometimes, like on webinars and things, to just like have your meal in front of you, and or whatever that favorite food is, or if it's a compulsion you're trying to give up or whatever, excuse me, to have it in front of you, and to just let your heart sincerely feel the gratitude for the food, and really give thanks for the food that you have, that is sustenance from the earth. And just say, I thank you for this food that is given to us through this earth. Ask for the blessings, the vibrations, the frequencies, to lift and clear and clean the vibration of the food, to make it holy and infuse it with whatever it is that our spiritual beings are needing. So we have the spiritual nourishment and the physical nourishment. Make it holy to nourish our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our souls, our spirit. And then I invite people to offer this food to their bodies as a source of nourishment, to their hearts as a source of love, and to their spirits as a source of reverence for the temple. And if you have something on there that you wouldn't offer to your temple that is not a reflection of love, a lot of times people will say, I have to go get something else, and they can't eat it. And it's been a transformational gift. And believe it or not, remember I said when my teacher showed up in vibration form and for a little over a year, that was one of the things I learned in vibration, or in non-physical, and one of the things he repeated when I met him in person. He gave the prayer of praying with your food. That second part I added afterwards, just as a way to help to really bring people's consciousness into alignment with, is the food something that will nourish your body, lift your heart in love, and reverent of the temple of your spirit and of the spirit that lives within you, the connection with the all that is. If no, don't eat it. Get something else.
I just wanted to add, because we are in these times, I think we could add to that prayer in reverence with Mother Earth and life as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always human focused, but it's on how we treat the earth.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And that is the other piece, when you're acknowledging sustenance that comes from the earth, that's another response of, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't really look like anything that came from the earth. I don't think I better eat this, and that, yeah, good point. We tend to be human focused, and the beauty of being human focused is that we're the ones that have that free will thing. So we're the ones that are not in harmony with nature. We're the ones that screw it up. So we're the ones that need to make the change. And we need to make the change for the greater good, not just for ourselves. Like you say, Melissa, it's not just humans that are suffering and or benefiting from our state. We impact everything. So were you leaning? Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
I just wanted to say again, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. this has truly been another session that has been transformative. I receive all of the wisdom that is flowing through you. I honor your journey, and I am so grateful that you said yes, and that you're courageous enough to say yes and step into that role and be this conduit of this embodiment, this knowledge that we all so much need right now. And for coming home to a family that sees you and recognizes all of that signal that you're giving out. And I just want to say thank you again. I just love you, and
Thank you.
I'm so appreciative. And whenever you're ready, if you would like to guide us in that meditation to close out the session, if anyone else has anything to say before you do that.
Yeah, sure. It was the Benjamin and Suzanne hand up to say something. And thank you. Well, if so, come off mute and please. But thank you to Jackie for inviting me here, and for Melissa and Myra for agreeing. Appreciate it. Okay, I don't see you coming.
Then just clapping, or did they have their hand up?
I think they were clapping.
Oh, okay. All right.
Or, thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So let's all come into a virtual circle. And are we holding hands? Yeah, absolutely. Coming into circle, and where we are side by side and shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, knee to knee, coming together, sitting together in a circle. And let's bring all of our focus and attention to the center of the circle, to face forward. So we bring all of our senses to the center of the circle, and take a breath into your heart center, the very important center. And as you exhale, bring that funnel of energy that extends from the front of your heart to face toward the center of our circle also. Let our hearts all come together, and let our hearts hold hands too at this hub of the wheel. And let's just take a breath in, and as we exhale, we drop down and land into your pelvic bowl. Really drop into your hips. And to bring your belly, right? Belly is a place that can hold all of the fear and all of the trauma responses and everything else that we've been to. That's a place that can sometimes be non-existent, not present with us when we're coming together. Let's bring our bellies and just invite them to come to rest in this space. And let's just call forward the vibration of that ocean of divine compassion, Ar-Rahman. And just know that this ocean of divine compassion is the container for the circle that we're in. And it is what fills the circle that we form as we come together. And it is the container of all of our material existence. And as Melissa pointed out, the importance of intention. If you have an intention or a prayer that you'd like to offer, let's just call all of our earth and our planet and all of its inhabitants and all of its life. Everything is life, all of its matter. And just hold that in the center of the circle, in this ocean of divine compassion. And if you have an intention or a prayer that you'd like to make, just offer that at this time. And maybe as a collective point, we can just set an intention, offer a prayer to lift the vibration of the entire planet and to release the pulsations of the trauma and the horror from the collective energy that surrounds our planet, from the collective of the humanity. And just call on that ocean of divine compassion to permeate those sounds, that vibration through the entire collective field. And remember, it starts with what's inside too. So let yourself, when you breathe in through your heart, let this funnel of energy at the front of your heart be like a breathing portal, and breathe in that vibration of the divine compassion. And with each breath, let it be like the waves of the ocean rolling onto your shore. And as you exhale, just let it carry into the depths of the ocean any of the blocks and barriers, any of the clutter, any of the things that keep the love and compassion from flowing freely through your heart center. And with each inhale, let yourself take that in a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And as you exhale, just let it release. As the poet Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers that you have built against it. So just let that love come into your heart, that loving compassion come into your heart. And as you exhale, let your exhale just carry away the blocks and the barriers into the depths of the ocean to be transformed, transmuted, returned to wherever they're needed to be. And as you inhale, again, take that vibration of divine compassion, the ocean of compassion, in deeper into your heart. And as you exhale, just let yourself kind of fall back along the front of your spine. So you're kind of in that core energy along the front of your spine, and just breathe that compassion into that space. This is a place we can come into to connect with that life force and that connection with all that is, and just let that divine compassion flow through your heart center, like flowing through your heart, and just pouring and filling this vertical core of energy along the front of your spine, and filling that space with this vibration of pure divine compassion. And let this, with your breath, breathe into your belly. So it's flowing through your heart and all the way along your vertical core. And let it flow into your belly. And for the women, this is the womb space, the ocean of divine compassion, that mirror of the ocean of divine compassion that resonates here. And let that vibration really flow into your belly, everyone into the belly, and the women into the womb, those who have a womb or once had a womb, born with womb. Let's let that flow into that womb space, and let that vibration of that eternal compassion, it's the compassion that exists beyond our time and space realm. And let that vibration really resonate in you, and just let your vertical core plug into that socket, that circuitry, that energy center there. And let that energy just move up along your vertical core, lift your chest, drop your shoulders, and bring your head not too far up, but just straight ahead, and really containing the energy within your body as you feel that resonating through your core, that beautiful life force energy resonating through you and emanating from you, emanating all the way from you. And with each exhale now, as you exhale, breathing this breath of eternal compassion, the breath of unconditional love, the breath of the pure light, breathing it into this field that circles our entire planet with the prayer and the intention. We pray for help from all of the angels and all of the healers and helpers and guides and prophets and source and everyone who is here to help us on this journey that we're on, all of our support system, to help to clear the dense energies, to clear the trauma, to clear the pain, and to lift the vibration, to permeate this vibration with the pure divine light, the unconditional love, and the eternal compassion. And let's just end with a bowing the heart in gratitude for what we've received, for what we've been able to give and to share, and for what is made when we come together, breathe together, move together, vibe together. Thank you very much. Took us a few minutes over. Sorry about that.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hawa, Guneshish.
Would you mind translating what that means?
There's two words. Hawa is Haida. Guneshish is Clinket, and they mean thank you. Both of them mean thank you.
Beautiful.
Hawa.
Thank you.
Hawa.
Hawa. In the Arabic language, Hawa is the name for Eve.
Thank you so much, Debra. That was so beautiful, and we need that so much in the world. And I just want to echo, I think it was Myra who said, or Jackie, please come and join us anytime you can, and always here on the Divine Feminine. We need you in the world.
Absolutely. I usually have a client during this time, but I actually moved her to Thursday so I could be here today. I'll just see if maybe we can make it a permanent shift, and maybe I can be here more often. This is definitely an honor and a blessing, and definitely an uplifting of the vibration to be in the company of such beautiful spirits here. So thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else I need to do to close this out other than thank you, thank you, thank you?
Thank you for being here. And I'm going to, Jackie, if you are good, and Myra, I'll pass it over to Jamin to conclude.
Thank you for
move us into the next segment.
Yeah, not to
thank you for providing the Radish platform.
Yeah.
Anytime, Debra, and not just for Divine Feminine, but for any purposes. In fact, I'm going to ask Jackie to maybe give us just a little bit of a heads up of what's coming from 5 to 7 today. As Jackie mentioned, in the next 2 hours, we're going to be covering food. And after that, various topics, including SRM and just kind of the holistic collective intelligence, etc. Then from 3 to 5, a new story for humanity with Michael Gaio. And then Jackie from 5 to 7, if I'm not putting you on the spot, sister, if you want to share with us what we've got to look forward to.
Yes, I'm just going to bring up the latest post, because Melvin and I met last night to really kind of solidify. Again, we were talking about our intention. And I'll just read a little description of what we're going to be discussing today.
Great.
We all want to live in a compassionate world of normalized nonviolence. How do we bring about solidarity among all the different community-based, religious-based, and grassroots efforts to end the patriarchal social systems that maintain and promote racism, police brutality against citizens, in particular Black and Indigenous people of color, the objectification of the feminine, economic inequality, educational disparity, speciesism, and white privilege? How do we transform our social systems to effectively serve the healing, integrity, and well-being of all life on Earth? And as vegans of color, we invite our communities to come and lock arms and create this unified family to bring healing onto the planet. And that's what we will be discussing from 5 to 7 tonight.
Just following on what you're saying, Jackie, I don't know if any of you have seen on Netflix the movie The Help. It's really an incredible film. I watched it last night, and it's really powerful, especially for all of a white privileged need to watch this movie. Yeah. Thank you, Jackie. That's beautiful. Can't wait.
All right, beautiful. And everyone is welcome for the entire 24-hour Collective Intelligence Block Party. So feel free to stick around. We're now a little over 5 hours in to the 24-hour block party, and all we've had is a 5-minute break. So I think a bit of a break is in order. I need at least 15 minutes. If people need more, let me know, and let's figure out when do we want to resume. This is kind of a democratic thing. So who is any suggestions for duration of break?
Like 11:20?
That would give us 11 minutes. I need a little more than that. Why don't we break till, say, 11:30?
Okay.
It'll give us a good 20 minutes. I'll stop recording during this time. We are live streaming on Twitch. And, just feel free to hang out and chat it up with whoever's here in the meantime. Just chat it up. I'll stop recording for the meantime. So stopping recording.